Welcome to your home fun class, Dominic and Steven. This is your first ever video and your first ever tutorial. I'm trying to walk through it as slow as possible, but feel free to pause the video whenever you want. Try and finish part 1, as I say again later in the video, by next class, which is next Tuesday, and then part 2, if you can, by next class as well. But part 2 is not mandatory, so do not worry about it too much. Thanks a lot. Okay guys, I just wanted to finish up class. Sorry it ended so quickly today. This is our home fun work that we're going to do. And so we finished off last class with our tree. And we have a red apple tree, and you guys named your trees whatever you guys decided. So I've got my sprite here called Tree, and its costume is called Red Apple Tree. Great. So Dom had the question, well, it's a bit too big. It's way bigger than our house. I can't even see our house. So the first thing I want you to do is go back to code, okay? And then I want you to select the tree here. So I'm already selected underneath my tree. And again, we could tell that we're selected by looking at the little tree icon right here. So once we've done that, we could change the size. So you guys know how to do this. I'm going to change my size. And please hit pause on the video right now to choose your own size that you think is valid. So just go ahead and hit pause. Okay, great. So I hope that you completed that little challenge. And I'm going to change mine to maybe 30. 30 is looking okay. Maybe just a bit smaller would be nice. I might go with 25. Okay, great. So I'm liking the look of 25. And now I can see that the tree is in front of our house. And although that looks quite nice, let's try and put it just a bit off. Maybe just like that. Or maybe right here. I think that looks quite good. I'll leave it right here. So now I've got my tree, and it's at the size of 25. It's at this position on the screen. So we went over positions. Both of you guys have been over positions with me in the past. Position is just saying where it is on the screen. So that's just a number saying, look, I'm right here on the screen. That's how the computer knows. The thing that we want to do is that we have 110 and negative 31. These numbers might be different for your tree. So don't worry about that. But make sure that it's in the position that you would like, and we'll go from there. So do that quickly. You could hit pause if you want and complete all of these tasks. So once you're done with that, let's go over here again and go up to events. So now I'm on events, and we know that when we click the green flag, we start the program. And that allows me to move my character around, like so. So I can move my character around, and that's all good. Now I've got the tree. The one thing that we do have to set up with the tree is that you can see that I could go behind the tree, like this. Well, that's one little small issue that we have to deal with in the future, because we don't want to be able to go behind the tree like that. We want to be able to go in front of the tree and maybe behind the tree when we get up to the actual bush here. But right now, we're just going to worry on the basics. So drag in when the green flag is clicked, like so. And then the next thing I want you to do is, I want you to scroll up to motion. And we want it so every time we start our scratch game here, our adventure game, that the tree spawns, or that it appears to be in the same location every time we do that. And how do we do that? Well, I want you guys to drag in the go to X and Y. So you've used this a few times. Again, that's the go to X and Y. And what that means is that every time we click the green flag, it's going to put itself in that right position. So that every time we run the code, it looks like it's in the exact same position. Great. So now I've got the go to X and Y, just like that. Perfect. So I'm just going to hit stop the code right now. And I'm going to show you. Please don't do this. I'm just going to show you in this example that it works. I'm going to put the tree up here in the corner where I don't want it. And watch this. If I click the green flag now, because we said when the green flag is clicked, then go to that position, watch what happens. Green flag. Perfect. Our tree's in the right position, and the game starts like normal. Well, another question is, what would we do for the house? Well, I'm glad you asked. we have to do the exact same thing for the house. So same thing again. I want you to try and do this by hitting pause on the video right now and setting it up so it spawns in the right position every time, like what we did with the tree. So go ahead and hit pause, and I'll wait for you. Great. So I hope that you're able to finish that, and this is my solution. So I'm going to drag in when the green flag is clicked, like so. And this is again saying when we click this green flag in the top corner here, then we want to run some code. Well, what we're going to do, I'm going to go underneath motion again, and you'll see now, it's really cool. The go to X and Y, the numbers are different. Well, in Scratch, it automatically defaults to where you've actually placed the house or where you've placed the sprite. So mine's 3 and 36, and you can confirm here 3 and 36. Perfect. So I'm going to show you. Again, don't do this, please. But I'm going to move my house to the corner here, and I'm going to move my tree maybe over here, where I do not want them. Now watch what happens. Stop it, run it. Perfect. It's put itself in the exact position where we want. Now, to finish up, because I don't want to use so much of your time, we have 1, moving the positions of the house and the tree, and 2, we scaled down the tree. Well, another thing that we have to do is that we have to be able to set it up that we can actually go into another screen here. So, for example, if I go to the edge here, I want to be able to switch into a new area, right? As though I'm like walking around. So how do we do that? Well, man, this is going to be a bit more difficult. What I want you to do now. Okay, so that's it for the first part of this class. The second part of our home fund is going to be a little bit more challenging. So you make sure that you have the first part done before you move on to the second part. And the second part is not mandatory, so it's optional. But if you do it, that allows us to do a lot more in our game, and maybe we could get a bit further than we originally expected to be. So if you could please do number 1, that video that you just watched, and number 2, if you really want to, the second video. Okay, great. Good job for completing part 1. So this is part 2, and this is more advanced. And just a word of caution, it is going to be a bit difficult, so try and stay with me. I would recommend watching the video first, and then watching it again while you do the work. So let's get straight into it. A cool thing that we're going to do, as I explained at the very end of last video, is that we want to make it so if I go all the way right here, let me just show you. If I go all the way right with my character, we want it to make it look like we're in a new spot, right? We won't have the house there, we won't have the tree, or maybe we'll have a tree, or maybe we'll have a bridge, or something like that. So the way we can do that is that we have to make our own variables. I think we've done variables, both of you guys have done variables in the past, but let's just go over what they are first again. So right down here, if you go down to variables, it's the darker orange on the left, and we can click make variable. So just click make variable, and watch this. If I name a variable, like a compass, north, south, east, and west. So let's just do that. It will help us navigate just a bit better. So I'm just going to make my new variable. I'm going to name it north/south. And make sure it's for all sprites. So there we go. Now I've got my one variable called north and south. And that's set to 0 by default. So let's make another variable. East and west. East/west. Like so. For all sprites again. Okay, great. So it shows them by default, saying north and south, east and west. Well, that's good. Now what we can do is that we have to go and we have to make a few changes here. So this is going to be a quite smart way to get around this. The one thing is that we have to say, oh, we want to change the costume of an object so it looks like it doesn't exist. But we don't want to keep creating loads of different, creating everything again. Why do we do that? When we could just simply say, why don't we change the costume of each one of these depending on where he is? So depending on what north and south is equal to and depending on what east and west is. So let me show you we do that. So I'm going to click on my house, and I'm going to go up here, costumes. And you can see here that I created a costume called 1 and 0. Let me explain what that means. Later on, what I'm going to show you is that let's set it so when we go all the way right, we can actually say that that east and west is equal to 1. So at a certain number, we could say that that east and west is equal to 1. And once we say it's equal to 1, then that means that north and south will equal to 0. And that allows us to select certain types of costumes depending on where they are on the screen. I'll show you more on what that is. So for now, just create a costume called 10. That's the costume name, 1, 0. And rename your main costume from whatever you called it to 0, 0, please. So we got 0, 0, which is our main house, and 1, 0, which is our second house. And just don't put anything in there for now. So let's go back to code. Okay, so I'm underneath Bub, and I'm underneath my code here. What we have to do is that we have to say that we want to say, when we go very far to the right, that I want you to change the value of east and west to 1 or -1, depending on which way we go. So for your reference, this is a compass. So we can see here that we have north, east, south, and west. So just for the sake of this demonstration, if you're not too familiar with this, let's just say north is up, east is right, south is down, and west is left. So once we have all of this in our heads, we can start designing the game a bit easier. So with that compass, we could say that when we're all the way right, east is equal to 1. Let's just say right is positive, left is negative, like what we always have right here. So let's do that. Go underneath events, and we want to drag in another when the green flag is clicked. So when the green flag is clicked, I want you to do something. And let's go over what that is. So when the green flag is clicked, let's drag in our trusty forever loop. That means it's going to keep running till the end of time, this forever loop. So forever, perfect. Now we want to drag in an if and an then. We learned about this last time in last class. Let's drag in an if then inside of the forever loop. Once we got the if and then, I'm going to show you something really cool. We haven't used many of these at all, but it's called an operator. And an operator is just for the computer to be able to do math, maybe just to check things, maybe to combine things, maybe to see if something is not that, etc. So we'll get into more detail on what this is in the future. But for now, all I want you to know is what a join operator is. So join is pretty much just saying, hey, I want you to combine whatever is in here with this. So basically, this would say apple banana as one word. But we can use this to our advantage by saying, I want you to join this stuff and say that's the number that we want to move to. I'll explain more in the future. So that's the join. I'm going to leave that to the side for now. While we're in here in operators, we have to confirm that something is greater than something. And I'll show you what I mean. So stay with me. This is going to get complicated. So I've got this guy right here. What this is saying is that blank is greater than 50. That's what this little thing in the middle here says. It looks like an alligator's mouth. So the thing on the left is saying if this is greater than this guy. So that's what that means. So if the thing is on the left that's in the alligator mouth is bigger than the guy on the right, then do something. So let's use this to our advantage. I'm going to drag this in here. And just for your sake, I want you to type in 237. And that's just the edge of the screen. Don't worry about that for now. I'm going to explain what that means. Underneath motion, it says X position. So I'm going to drag in X position. And what I'm saying here, if the X position is greater than the number 237. So again, if I run my code right now, I can see that the number X is changing depending on which way I move. So X is left and right. So if I move X all the way to the end here, you can see that it's 240, which is just bigger than 237. So that means that our code will run. So let's use that code. I want you to go underneath variables now. And I want you to say change east-west by 1. So drag that one in. That's change east-west by 1. Yours might say north and south. Doesn't matter. So drag that in. Change east-west for me by 1. That's exactly what you want. If it's on north and south, all you got to do is just click it where it says north and south and select east and west. And it says by 1 now. Great. So once we've changed it by 1, so now they're at 0, I could say that if the x position is greater than 237 and after that is true, so right now it is true, I could say change east and west by 1. So once I say change east and west by 1, I want to change the x position of our character. So I'm going to drag in the change x by, underneath inside of this if, underneath the change east and west by 1, change x by. Now this is a vital number that you guys have to make sure that you copy down directly. Negative 480 is that number. So we should try this in just 1 minute. So this is just for going right, and we can test this. I'm going to go over here back to my house number 1. And if your house number 1 is invisible, go ahead and change the costume back to 0, 0. Now we got to put some if statements in here. And the if statements that we're going to put in are just saying, look, if north and south and east and west is equal to 0, I want the screen to look exactly like our starting position, right here. So how we're going to do that is that we want to say something here. And that thing that we're going to say is, if you go underneath control again, let's drag in a forever loop. Once we have the forever loop in, let's switch the costume. Switch costume to, and it says 10 for now. And 10 is that costume. So we can have 0 and 1, 0. Make sure that you're underneath the house as well. And we have 0 and 1, 0. You see that? So I'm going to click 0 for now. You can see that it runs like normal. And if I click 1, 0, it's blank. That's because I'm running the code. Don't worry about that for now. So now I've got the switch costume to 0, 0. Let's say we want to switch it to when it's east of a certain value and when it's north of a certain value. So if we want to say that we want to switch it when this switches over to 1, I'll show you right now. If I travel all the way over to my right, you can see that it switches to 1. Look at that. So now I've got east and west to 1. So what I want to do here, go to operators, like what I said before, the join apple and banana. Drag that guy in. Once we got that in, scroll down to your variables and say, let's join east and west. So instead of apple, east and west, and then north and south, banana, like so. Drag that into switch costume, and voila, look at that. The house is gone. Pretty cool, huh? I'll show you what that looks like again. So we can see here that we have a small issue. Apart from the house being hidden exactly what we want to make sure that it resets to the original position, the original house, every time we start the game. So let's do that right now. What I want to do here is that I want to go back to Bub. I want to say when the green flag is clicked, let's say that if the green flag is clicked, we want to say that we want to reset the costumes on the house every time. So let me go back to house number 1 here. So to fix this issue, we want to reset east and west and north and south to 0 every time we start the game. And how we do that is, I'm just going to stop my code here. How we do that, we're just going to drag in underneath variables. We could say set east west to 0. Drag that one in. Very top here. 2 of them. And now all you need to do is change north and south to 0. Perfect. And now watch. If I click the green flag, north and south is equal to 0 and east and west is equal to 0. So if I go all the way right, now it's going to change the house and it's gone. Perfect. Okay, that's all for today. We're going to go over a bit more in detail next time on how to finish this up. But if you got this far, very good job. Congratulations. That was really tough. Don't worry about it. If you didn't get it, we're going to go over it again in next class. Hey guys, I've changed here. Great job at finishing your first ever home fun class. Now, I'll see you guys next time, but till then, stay safe, stay home, and keep coding.